February the 12th, 1914, St. Petersburg. Thousands of excited spectators are saluting the world's first passenger aeroplane taking off, lifting 16 passengers and a dog into the air. Ilya Muromets has set a new record in carrying capacity, 1,290 kilograms. A lot of hard work and numerous aircraft designs gave birth to this plane created by the Russian engineer Igor Sikorsky.
Hey, this is Dore reporting here from Prague, from 1C Games Prague and Play. Now we're talking about Ilya Muromets, Igor Sikorsky, a hardcore sim flying game. Now this game has an interesting story, like a history and legacy even. Can you go into a little bit details about that?
Sure. So the game is about the first strategic bomber in the history of aviation, because Ilya Muromets was the first heavy bomber ever created. And this plane also has a pretty impressive and remarkable mission record. It made over 400 missions during World War I, and there were like 60 planes created of this kind, and they were shot only twice. So you can imagine this is a very remarkable result for such a big boy as Ilya Muromets was. So this plane was the first strategic bomber in the history, over 400 missions, and it was a very remarkable piece of engineering. Can you imagine? It was created like 100 years ago, and for that time this was like the most modern, the most impressive piece of engineering ever created by mankind.
Now the game itself comes from a strong backbone, and then you got into an interesting partnership. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So it all started back in 2009 when we actually released our first World War I flight sim, which is called Rise of Flight. And it was pretty successful, and it is actually one of the most known flight sims on the market right now. And about a year ago, we got approached by the Russian Historical Military Society, who know about the game. I mean, the first one, Rise of Flight, and they've picked up us as a game developer to produce and to develop the game about World War I, because we have the 100th anniversary of World War I this year.
Now, during the presentation, you coined a term about this type of game, a documentary game, if I remember correctly. What exactly does that entail?
You can imagine World War I was 100 years ago, and there is no live witness left. And pretty soon this will fade into mankind's history. And it is already, right now, it is pretty hard to find documentary, things and documentary archives about this period of war.
Yeah, History Channel is just doing Pawn Stars and Stories Wars.
Exactly. So sometimes when we were doing Rise of Flight, we even had to do, we call it reverse engineering. So we took a photo of the plane and we had to think of it and how to model it to realize how it actually reacts and how it acts in the air. So this is what we call reverse engineering. So, and under documentary games, we mean that this will be the source for knowledge for World War I. Because even right now, if you, for example, Google something about World War I planes, I bet that probably at least 2 or 3 of the top 10 links will have something in common with Rise of Flight. So this is becoming a source of information about the spirit of war.
Now, that brings kind of into question, is this a game, is this a sim, or is this education, or a fantastic blend of all three?
I would say it's all together. It is combined. First of all, of course, this is a game, but this is a game that is very accurate in terms of historical events. It treats history in a very accurate way, so we're not doing any alternative history. And it is also a sort of encyclopedia.
Now, I got my hands just a tiny bit on it. I mean, it is very hard, it is very accurate. Is there any sort of easement to get new players who aren't used to playing sim games into the game?
Our community in Rise of Flight is pretty big, and guys make a lot of how-to videos like how to operate stuff. So we actually count a lot on them as well. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of videos of how to play will appear on YouTube and some other sources. So I think that maybe this part of the story, I mean this part of history of World War I that happened on the Eastern Front, because usually for Western players, for Western people, the Western Front is well known. But if you would like to know something more, what happened on the Eastern Front at the same time, so this will be a good chance.
So a tough game about tough times.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, when is the game coming out? What is the kind of release schedule? Are you going into early access? And what's the monitor? Is it a single purchase game?
So we're planning to go with the early access pretty soon, actually on August the 1st. And we're aiming at a Q4 this year release. So we'll probably announce the release date a little bit later. But we're aiming at the end of this year.
So Q4?
Yeah, Q4.
Okay. And like I said, it's a single purchase game. I hate to have to ask this every time, but
it is a single purchase game, so as long as you purchase the game, you don't need to buy anything extra for it.
Now, IL-2 Sturmovich has some great modding support and community stuff going on in terms of levels and stuff like that. Does this game also include something like that?
We're thinking about it right now. So at the release point, we probably won't have an editor, but maybe later, just as it was done with Rise of Flight, we might add some features.
And it's only single player?
No, it has the multiplayer option as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It was preparing for combat. It was preparing for glory.